Gimbals are a staple of any filmmaker's kit, but how well does the RS4 Mini hold up? Is this just another gimbal, or have they done something special here? What's going on, guys? My name is Dan Davis and I'm the creative director here on DansTube.TV, and today I've got my full review of the RS4 Mini from DJI, which is their latest gimbal system. Now, this is a fascinating system for me because of the setup that I've got, but it might not be for everyone. So for me, I've got a Panasonic G9 and a 9mm lens on the front, so not an overly heavy system. And this unit here has a payload rating of up to 2 kilograms. So it'll work with most mirrorless cameras as long as you've got a basic lens, nothing too heavy, as it would not be able to work for that. But up to 2 kilograms is the payload rating you get with the RS4 Mini. I really like how simple it is to swap into vertical mode. So all you have to do is you literally loosen this screw right here. So you loosen it, push in the button, and it will then remove this plate, right? So the whole plate comes off. You then adjust it into the right orientation, like so, clip it into place again, tighten it, and it's ready to go for vertical shooting. It's really that simple to adjust the orientation you're looking for. And this unit here also works with smartphones. There's a smartphone mount that you get in the kit, and I'm sure that you can make it work for action cameras and other camera systems as well. But I just love how simple it is to swap into vertical mode. Such a simple process, just to press that button to release, change it into the orientation you want it to go into, which would be that way for me, and then it just locks straight into place. Screw it in, and it's nice and secure for either vertical or horizontal shooting. One of the more unique offerings here is this tracking module. Now, I've seen tracking modules now for a little while from other camera companies, and DJI as well have done something quite similar with their smartphone range. So what this is it's literally a little camera system. It's got a light on the front there that lets you know what mode it's in. You can plug it in via USB-C on the back there. It magnetically clips into place, and there's only one way that it can clip. So if I try that way, it won't work. You have to turn it so that it's facing the user, basically, or facing, you know, the person in front, for example, because you'd typically be tracking someone and then you would be controlling the gimbal itself. I found that this was really accurate, easy to use, and the prompts are so simple. All you do is just put up your hand to start tracking. You then put up your hand to stop tracking. If you do the 2 L's, it then starts blinking, and you can change your framing, do it again, and then that will track you from that frame. So you can get yourself off to the left-hand side of the frame. You can come in really close, which is what I've done a couple of times. I've come in really close, centered myself, and then started the tracking again. And it's simple to use. It does a great job, and it just takes away some of that headache of having to try to track a subject. It really just makes it nice and simple, and then you as the operator, you just have to focus on getting the shot because it's already tracking the subject. One thing I really love about this unit is how simple it is to balance everything. They've gone with a Teflon design here, so it slides and glides with ease. You don't have to worry about any sort of resistance or rub or anything like that. It's so simple to just balance all the different points here. And that was something that they said was previously kept for that higher end flagship design, but they've brought it across to the RS4 Mini, and it really does make a difference because previous models, you would kind of feel that resistance and it would almost sound like it's scraping as it was going into the balance position. Now it just glides, it's really smooth, and I find that that makes the world of difference when I'm actually balancing a camera on it. A really nice quality of life improvement here is the auto axis locks. So there's a few different ways that you use this. So the first thing is you just press the power button once and you actually see the locks click into place. So they lock, and then you press the power button again and it will unlock. You'll see a little animation on the screen and it will lock everything in place. So that means that when you're moving to a new location, maybe you're just walking, 30 meters, let's say, but you don't want to keep it on, press that lock button, it locks it in place. Get to the location, and then you unlock it, and all the axes just unlock. You see the little locking mechanisms unlock. Love how simple that is, and really easy to use. The other thing I really liked is when you power down the unit, it actually locks it into its powered down state, into its position on an angle. So you can keep your camera on there, which is what I did when I went to the locations I went to. I literally just powered down the camera, it locked everything into place, and I could keep my camera on the unit, didn't have to worry about removing it. And then when I get to the location, power it on, and it automatically powers on. I had already got the balance point before I left, so that just made it so much easier instead of having to think about setting it up again and awkwardly adjusting everything. Just that whole user experience is a lot cleaner now. Now, this is not something that's new. Like, we've seen this in other DJI gimbals, and other companies have done similar things as well. But just to have it on the RS Mini range, on the RS4 Mini, is really nice. I love how simple it is to use, the easiest balancing experience that I've had with a gimbal. And like I said, it's sometimes one of those big, like, resistant points for me. One of the limitations that gets in the way of me wanting to use a gimbal is finding that balance point and then having to adjust it all the time, especially if I don't want to use it all the time, right? But I found that this was probably one of the easiest experiences I've had with a proper camera gimbal. Another really nice feature is this fine tuning knob here. So you actually just twist it to move the plate forward and back. And it makes it so much easier, again, to find that balance point. So with the Teflon interlayers, which make it smooth to slide the rails back and forth to find that right balance point, and then you've got this little fine tuning knob to get that balance, it just makes it so much easier, and that is the whole experience of getting it set up. Especially because if you're using a camera system, you might want to change lenses, which then means you have to change the balance point. Maybe you want to put a microphone on the unit or a light or something like that. It just means that you constantly have to adjust it. But with these little quick, easy use options, it makes it simple. You can connect your camera to the RS4 Mini via Bluetooth, and that gives you a lot of control to start and stop recording directly via the gimbal record button. And you can also control power zoom lenses with just the joystick as well. So I didn't get a chance to fully test this. I was using it just as a stock standard unit, but you can use it that way as well, and that just adds some more functionality. In terms of the button experiences and how it feels in the hand, it's a really high quality, heavy duty system. Doesn't weigh too much, so it doesn't feel uncomfortable. I was using this for an extended period of time the other day with my camera system on top. Yeah, I got a little bit sore, my arm got a little bit sore, but nothing ridiculous. And it is quite a lightweight unit, really easy to just lock it and unlock it, which makes it nice and easy to just transport to a new location. I love the addition of the tripod base. That's what I always use. It just gives you that extra range just to hold in a different location, but comfortable to use. There's different mounting options to get the different additional accessories that you have with it, just to mount an additional arm and some other options as well. I found that they've gone with something interesting here. They've got like this little switching mechanic here where you actually switch between the modes. So on the right hand side here, if I'm looking at it, I've got the PTF, PF and FPV mode, and I just use an actual switch, you know, like a little toggle, and it switches between those modes, which is quite nice. It can be relatively easy to knock it, not that I ever have, but it just glides nicely and just clicks into those three different modes. There's a power button on the side. You've got a scroll wheel to adjust a bunch of other options, and then the trigger on the back, which protrudes nicely. It actually feels really nice on that side. And then on the left-hand side, we've got the USB-C, and then we've got the option for the zooming in and out, which I mentioned before, as well as full control over the joystick. So I was just using the joystick for the movement of the camera a lot of the time. And again, the joystick feels really nice. It protrudes out. It feels like a well-designed unit. I noticed, like, if I compare this to a smartphone gimbal, a lot of the time the trigger doesn't protrude too much, so it's more of just a button as opposed to a trigger. So that feels a lot nicer. The joystick has a really nice range of motion, and it protrudes out enough that it just feels comfortable for my large thumb that I have. And then there's also a record button and a mode button there as well. And the screen itself has seen a big improvement here. I love how simple it is to navigate the different modes through the screen. So there is an improved interface. It now sports a number of UI upgrades, and it just makes it a lot easier to play around with different settings, right? It just pops up and lets you know what mode it's in. So at a glance, you can see what mode you're in. You can see what the tracking setting is in, so you can make it a little bit more responsive or smooth, and you can adjust that on the fly. You can also calibrate everything, so balance it all as well once you set it down. And honestly, it's just a real basic offering. There's not too much to it when you're in the screen. You've got some control over settings. I found that if I wanted to change modes, I had to physically change the toggle on the side, that little switch. So it's almost just a display. It shows you what mode you're on, what mode you're in on the display, and then when you adjust that, that's where it updates on the screen. And then you've also got control over, like I said, the responsiveness, which you choose on here. You can then balance everything and calibrate it through here. And there's a few other settings as well, but quite a basic offering. It's not the most complicated user interface, but it makes it a lot easier because I found that once I had it set up, once I updated through the app, I then didn't need to use the app again, right? I was very rarely using the app because I could do everything through the unit itself. They say it has a 30% improvement in terms of battery life when we compare it to the previous edition. Now, I had never had any issues with the RS3 Mini, but for my use, I'm only very rarely using a gimbal, right? So if you're using it full time, if you're in the real estate game, if you're doing like short films and productions constantly, then that improvement to battery life is going to be noticed. But for me, who's more of a casual user who might occasionally set it up, I very rarely notice the battery life because I'm only using it briefly and then charging it. But to have that improvement is huge for people who are using this all the time. They're also saying that this is a fast charging unit, so within 30 minutes of charge, you're going to get 5 hours of operation. So that is very handy if you're on the field. You can plug it into your car, for example. You could just have a little power bank with you, charge it for 30 minutes, and then you get 5 hours of use out of it. So again, very handy for that on-the-go kind of setup where you want to film a lot of stuff. Great for traveling as well because it's quite a lightweight unit, and to be able to have that power bank with you potentially just to charge on the fly is going to make a big difference. They are saying that it is sporting the 4th generation RS stabilization, and that's what this whole unit's about, right? It is a stabilization unit, it's a stabilizer. And so for me, I've always found that the hardest part about a gimbal is getting that right balance point. If you don't have it balanced perfectly, it just doesn't give you the results you're looking for. So I actually watched a few tutorials just to make sure that I had the balance right. You got to make sure that it, you know, as you lift it up, it doesn't move. As you angle it this way, it doesn't kind of roll around. So you got to make sure everything's really tight to get the most out of it. But I found that I was impressed with the footage. It was stable, it looked good, and no issues at all with it. I found that it was pretty responsive to all of my movements. And it's a powerful little unit, considering it's not a huge gimbal, it's relatively lightweight, it's really responsive with movements, so easy to balance, and then I found that the stabilization was great. You know, I'm sure that I could improve on it, I'm sure that I could do the ninja walk to get things smoother and slower panning and tilting, but I was impressed with it. For my use case, where I'm a casual user of a gimbal, really impressed with it. If you tightened it though, I'm sure that you could get even more professional grade footage from it. And quickly going back to the tracking module on top, I mentioned it a little bit at the beginning, but I found that this was very responsive as well. There were times where I was like running past the camera and it just kept up with me, times where I walked really close and it was able to plan ahead and know where I was going to be. It very rarely lost me unless I came really close and it just lost me, or if there was something very clearly in the way. But outside of that kind of scenario, it was extremely reliable. And in most scenarios, if you're the filmmaker and you have a subject, you can really focus in on the subject, right? You can make sure that you're moving in a way to keep them in the frame, to make sure that the tracking module can see them still. And so for my example, I was just using it as a solo filmmaker. So I just had this set down on the ground like that, and I just had it tracking me. I just put up the hand and just started moving and seeing how it would track me. It did a great job, right? I was able to walk around a table multiple times, it just kept going. I was able to run past it at the beach. So overall, the tracking module did a great job, no issues with it, and it was reliable through all the tests I put it through. I think they've done a great job with this gimbal. I don't think it's anything groundbreaking, like it's not the flagship gimbal. So it's got a lot of those flagship features from previous versions that have come down to this cheaper, more user-friendly version for the casual content creator. For, you know, it is great for filmmakers, people who want to do short films and any sort of regular content where they're getting paid for. But if you're getting paid to make content and you've got a larger camera, then this isn't going to be able to do it because it's got a limit of 2 kilograms for its payload. So as long as your camera is under the 2 kilogram mark, and as long as you're happy with, you know, the way it operates and the setup. And so this works for a range of people. People who want to use it as a traveling accessory, perfect for that because of its lightweight design. It weighs under a kilogram. I think it's like just over 800 grams for the unit itself. Really lightweight, and then you've got a camera system that doesn't weigh too much on top, so it's great for transport, great for travel, but it's also a great on the fly, on the go kind of setup because everything locks quickly, it powers down and locks into position, powers up, immediately gets ready to go. It's got the tracking module, really simple and quick to change into vertical shooting. You can also use it with your smartphone, and I'm sure you can make it work with other little cameras and action cameras and whatnot as well. Everything feels a lot smoother here over the previous version, in my opinion. So that Teflon interlacing that they talk about does make a difference. When you're sliding those rails, trying to get the right position, there's previously a lot of friction, right? And it can be a little bit challenging to get that. Really simple here, super simple to do. I love that little fine tuning knob on top, makes it again really simple to adjust. They've done a great job here. It's a smart unit, simple to use. The screen does make a difference even though it's quite limited in its offering. It just does a great job of displaying the basics for you. And it feels great in the hand, right? The triggers feel great, the joystick, all the buttons feel great. I think they've done a great job with this. So if you're looking for a gimbal and you've got yourself a mirrorless camera, this is a great one to look into because of its size, because of its ease of use, and it just does the job for you, right? But potentially it always depends on what you're looking for. So if you do paid work and you have a larger camera, this probably just won't cut the mustard, right? Because it won't be able to hold your camera. And you could probably also get away with a larger, more premium grade gimbal, especially if you're using it all the time. But this is an improvement. They've done a great job here, and it's cool to see them still offering something for, you know, all ranges of people, right? So this is something that can work for the professional, but it can also work for a content creator or someone who wants to take it casually, or someone who just wants to capture content while they're traveling or exploring. This kind of does it all, depending on, you know, the weight of the camera, but it does it all for the average person as well as for the professional. So anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I will chat to you very soon, and peace.